Hi guys and welcome to Odds on Premier League. We have the 12th match day with us and there is a Manchester derby, Man United, Man City. Let's analyze everything with Tom Williams, but I also want to know your opinion. So please let me know what you think and comment in this video. You will have the chance to win a £10 free bet with Novibet. Leave a comment and you will participate in the draw. And do not forget to click on the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to our channel and click on the bell to get notifications. And now let's go on with the show. We have the 12th match day of the Premier League with us this weekend, and like every single week also we have Tom Williams. Hello Tom.
Hey Eduardo, how's it going?
It's going well, thank you. Last weekend we enjoyed a North London derby and this is the chance to enjoy a Manchester derby. The best match for sure in this weekend, but let's start with Friday game, Leeds West Ham. Tom, a very tough one to predict. I would say if we check the outcome market, the victory for Leeds is paid 2.25 right now on Oddspedia.com, West Ham 3.39, so Leeds is a little bit favorite. They were defeated at the Stamford Bridge, but they were giving a good image, I would say. And West Ham also, they were beaten by Man United. Both teams actually took the lead and then they lost. What can we expect here? I think it's tough one, I would say, no? Going here for the outright market.
Leeds are a tricky team to predict this season. You know what you're going to get in terms of the style of football they play. It's always aggressive, front foot, in your face football, but you never know what you're going to get in terms of results. They've been very up and down, very inconsistent. Some really impressive performances, winning away at Aston Villa, winning away at Everton. As you say, gave a decent account of themselves at Chelsea last weekend, but they've also had some heavy defeats. West Ham, decent form away from home, and there's a bit of a contrast there. Leeds have struggled a bit at Elland Road. They've gone 4 games without a win at home in the league. West Ham have only lost 1 of their last 4 away from home. They're a team who tend to like travelling. Plus Leeds have got some injury issues. Robin Koch, their centre-back, looks like he's going to be out for a few months. So I think given West Ham have that edge on the road, I'll be looking at a West Ham win here. Okay, we have good odds. As I said, the West Ham victory is 3.39. If you want to be a little bit cautious, you might look at the Asian Handicap 0 for West Ham. If you fancy the London team victory, it's 2.44. So if they draw, at least we get our money back. This is your tip at Elland Road. Let's go to the next game on Saturday. Wolverhampton, Aston Villa. The Wolves, they got a very heavy defeat at Anfield, but Liverpool played really good that game. And the Wolves they are always very competitive, I would say, with low teams in the Premier League. And Aston Villa, I guess they are going down and down, but well, their last game was postponed against Newcastle. Their form is only 1 victory in the last 5 games, and this is a tough one to win actually here, Tom. Very tough stadium here. Yeah, Wolves very solid at home. They've got the best defensive record at home in the league this season with only 5 goals conceded, albeit they've only played 5 home games. Some teams have played 6. But the only teams to have won at Molineux in the league in 2020 are Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester City. And this was good Arsenal at the end of last season as opposed to bad Arsenal at the beginning of this season. So tough nut to crack at Molineux. And like you say, Villa's form has really dived the last few weeks. Not only have they only won 1 of the last 5, but the other 4 games in that sequence, they've all lost. They've had a couple of weeks to sort of stew on that, given that, as you say, their game against Newcastle was postponed last weekend. Wolves tend to keep it tight, as we've discussed previously. And as a result of that, I think this will be quite a cautious one. Although, you know, we know all about Villa's attacking threat, particularly given Jack Grealish's form. But I'd be looking at a fairly low-scoring encounter, which you often get in the Saturday lunchtime game. So maybe something like under 2 goals, and you can get odds of 2.5 on that on Oddspedia currently. Okay, in that case, if there are 2 goals, we have our money back.
And let's see if we see more goals in St James's Park. Newcastle, West Brom, we just said Newcastle, their game was postponed. Also in the middle of the table, and West Brom, they were thrashed at home, 1-5 against Crystal Palace. A pity probably for the team, because they just beat Sheffield United, getting their only victory in the season. They couldn't keep the hype of that victory, and the odds for a Newcastle victory, something that I guess we all should expect, is 2.3. Kind of appealing, I would say, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, West Brom, really disappointing performance and result last weekend against Crystal Palace. As you said, it looked like they had potentially turned a corner. They had that win against Sheffield United. They'd really forced Tottenham and Manchester United to work hard for victories against them in the 2 previous weeks, and then they shipped 5 goals at home to Crystal Palace. Newcastle, like Villa, have had 2 weeks without playing, but their last result was that really impressive 2-0 win away at Palace. So we have a comparison between these two teams in terms of how they've fared against the same opponent in recent weeks. Newcastle beating Palace quite, relatively convincingly, albeit with late goals. West Brom getting stuffed. So I'd be looking at a Newcastle win here. And given that West Brom have struggled for goals this season, perhaps a Newcastle win to 0, which is available at odds of 3.7 on Oddspedia.
Okay, let's go for Newcastle here, and the next game is the huge one in the UK. We have Man United, Man City, the Manchester Derby. Last season, Man U won both games. Probably it's going to be tougher for them this season, especially after what we saw in the Champions League. Man United are out of the Champions League after their defeat against Leipzig. Probably this is a huge blow economically and of the project of Solskjaer. You will tell me if Solskjaer's job actually is at risk if they lose against Man City. Man City, they beat Olympique Marseille easily. Also, they beat Burnley and Fulham. They've been having an easy calendar, and they have not conceded goals in the last 5 games. This is good news for them. But Pep's team, I also think that they need a big victory this season. They couldn't beat Liverpool, Leicester or Tottenham in the season. Let's see if they can do it with their neighbors. And the odds for Man City are very low, actually, Tom. Only 1.87 the victory for the citizens here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the state that the two clubs are in currently. United's league form has been very good, 4 straight wins, and coming from behind again last weekend to win at West Ham. Whereas City have been up and down, but look to have potentially turned a corner. I mean, they've had some straightforward fixtures, certainly in the league. 5-0 at home to Burnley, 2-0 at home to Fulham. Games that you'd expect them to win, but they've won them, and they've won them convincingly. They've got players coming back into the team. We saw Sergio Aguero in action in the Champions League in midweek. So it feels like there's a bit of momentum building at City. And although United's league form has been good, or at least they've been getting wins on the board, that elimination from the Champions League will really have stung them. And plus, they had to put out a full strength team. They were sort of pushing right until the very end of stoppage time, whereas City, having already qualified, were able to rest players once again. So there's a freshness about City, and plus City's recent record at Old Trafford's pretty good. They've won 6 of the last 9 league games at Old Trafford. So it's no longer at a stadium that they fear playing at. So yeah, I'd be looking at a City victory here. And for example, if you were to look at a slightly more creative bet, City to win both halves, for example, which I don't think is inconceivable, you get odds of 5 on that outcome on Oddspedia at the moment.
Really favorite City, and I mean we are surprised now, because we all think that Man United season has been disastrous, and when we see the table, actually they have 1 point more than the citizens. So let's see what happened here. Your tip is for Man City, and it's also a good game. The next one on Saturday in Goodison Park, Everton, Chelsea, and Ancelotti against his former team. But Ancelotti, I'm sure he's not happy. They got only a draw against Burnley, only 1 victory in the last 7 games, and was against Fulham. Whereas Chelsea, they are in form still. in the last 10 games, 8 victories and 2 draws in the Champions League. Well, they drew against Krasnodar, but this is there was nothing on stake, and the odds also for Chelsea are low here, 1.83. Bookies expect the Blues to win against the Toffees.
Yeah, two teams in very contrasting form. Everton, as you say, 1 win in 7 in the league. I mean, that early season momentum has disappeared completely. And Chelsea, who've looked fantastic for the last few weeks now, very solid. 3 away games in the league in a row without conceding a goal. Having said that, I think they are still gettable defensively. Chelsea, you know, we saw that when they went behind at home to Leeds last weekend. They do play with a lot of space in behind their defence, and there's a lot of pace and there's a lot of creativity in that Everton attack. So yeah, I'd be backing Chelsea for the win, but I think Everton could cause them problems. And the bet that I'm picking out for this one is both teams to score, which you can get at odds of 2.25 on Oddspedia. Yes, Chelsea's recent defensive form has been extremely impressive, but I do think that there's enough attacking potential in this Everton team for them to cause Chelsea problems.
Higher odds for both teams to score than for a Chelsea victory. So that's your tip. Let's move on Sunday. In St Mary's, we have Southampton, Sheffield United. Southampton, one of the teams of the season so far, because they are 5th in the Premier League, and they were able to beat Brighton last Monday with Danny Ings scoring again from the penalty spot. Only 1 defeat in the last 9 games, and probably they didn't even deserve it. It was against Man United at home. And we are looking at Sheffield United, probably, I mean, it's the worst team in the Premier League for sure. Only 1 point. They lost again 1-2 against Leicester City in the very last minute. And they lost. This is an interesting stat about Sheffield United. If someone wants to back Southampton with Asian handicap, for instance, Tom, because they've lost 10 games this season, but only 2 were for more than 1 goal. So they are actually competitive, but like we saw against Leicester, they cannot grab any point at the end.
Yeah, I mean, that game against Leicester summed up their season in a way, in that, you know, they were in the game throughout. They scored a goal for once, bit of a rarity, and end up conceding right at the end. You know, Jamie Vardy running through and curling home, and then demolishing the corner flag in celebration. And that's been Sheffield United's fate this season. They haven't been, you know, generally speaking, they haven't shipped too many goals, but they've really struggled to score, and they've just not been able to get any sort of points on the board. And Southampton, as you say, exceptional form, albeit you know, having lost their most recent home game against Manchester United. So yeah, this looks like a home banker for me. I can't see anything but Southampton.
The odds are pretty good, 1.81. Again, I think it's very risky to go for Asian handicap, because Sheffield still always keep the games tight, but the victory for Southampton is fair enough. The odds, the same odds actually than the victory away from Tottenham. They are visiting Selhurst Park in another London derby. This time they have to travel to the south, and Tottenham, well, the Spurs are the leaders. You predicted perfectly the score in the North London derby. Tottenham beat Arsenal 2-0. Now they've been 10 games with no defeat since Everton got the victory at home in the north of London, and every day is looking better. That duo, Tom, Son and Kane, probably you expect here another victory, right, for the Spurs?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, Palace are going into this off the back of that fantastic win away at West Brom, you know, their most impressive attacking performance of recent seasons. So it shows that they pack a punch at the sharp end of the pitch. But yeah, impossible to look beyond Spurs, the form they're in at the moment. You know, we wondered whether they'd be able to sustain their form going into this quite tricky period of games. You know, but they've beaten City, drew away at Chelsea, they've beaten Arsenal, their fiercest rivals. They look pretty unstoppable. So yeah, I'll be backing a Spurs win here. And one thing Spurs have done very well, and we saw that again in the North London derby, is scoring early goals. They've scored more goals in the first 30 minutes of matches than any other team in the league this season, 10 so far. So, maybe looking at something like a Spurs to score first bet, which you can get at odds of 1.57. I think it's always worth backing Spurs to at least take the lead in their games.
Let's see how the Spurs perform, because you said it correctly. Now we are in a marathon of games, and it's always very crucial in the Premier League. The team that does better the Christmas period. We have a lot of games, and we will have a lot of shows on Odds On Premier League to analyze everything, even during this Christmas period. But be careful with Crystal Palace, as they beat West Brom 1-5 in the previous weekend. Also, we expect an away victory in the next one. We have Fulham Liverpool at Craven Cottage. Liverpool, they travel in the Champions League to Denmark with a draw, but they are in sensational form, even despite all the injury problems that Klopp is having. They beat Wolverhampton in a very, very convincing performance, 4-0. And Fulham, they lost 2-0 against City. Nothing strange about that, I would say. But be careful, they are competitive still. They beat Leicester City only 2 weeks ago, and now they are defending better. The odds for Liverpool are very low, 1.37. I don't know, where can you find here, Tom, the value bet?
Yeah, I think we know what sort of game we will get here. Fulham, as they did at City, will look to defend. Liverpool can expect lots of the ball, and as they showed against Wolves, as they showed against Leicester recently, even with so many key defenders missing, Liverpool are capable of beating decent Premier League teams and keeping clean sheets. So I think given the fact that not that Fulham will go into this as a damage limitation exercise, but we know that they'll adopt a cautious approach, and they do make teams work hard. So I'm not necessarily expecting Liverpool to completely blow them away, but I think it'll be a game that Liverpool will control, a game that Liverpool will win without too many problems, and maybe Liverpool to win 2-0, which you can get odds of 2.55 on Oddspedia.
Fair enough then, Liverpool to win 2-0. Next one is at the Emirates, Arsenal-Burnley. Arsenal really need the victory. And if we look down, actually they are only 7 points away from relegation, marked by Burnley. So they have to win to start looking up to the European positions instead of the relegation zone. 1 victory in the last 7 games, 3 defeats in the last 4 games. Everything is very negative for Arsenal, and for Burnley, at least they got a draw against Everton and only 1 defeat in the last 4 games, but is a team that struggles a lot away from home. Only 1 goal scored this season away from Turf Moor. So of course, Arsenal should bounce back, Tom.
If Arsenal don't win this, they really will start to look in serious trouble, because yes, recent results have been disappointing, but they've been losing against decent teams. Spurs are flying. Wolves, we know what a dangerous team they are. Losing 3-0 at home to Aston Villa was pretty pathetic, but we've seen what Villa can do to good teams this season. So if Arsenal can't beat Burnley at home, I think very serious questions about Mikel Arteta will start to be asked. At the same time, Burnley are a team who make you work hard, albeit that tends to be more at turf more than away from home. But Arsenal have really struggled for goals this season. I can see this being the game where Arsenal stop the rot, where they get a win on the board, but I think they'll have to work for it. So I don't think it's going to be a particularly high scoring affair. So I'd be looking at something like under 2 goals maybe, which you can get odds of 2.8 on Oddspedia.
We have also under 2.5 goals, around 2.0 right now on Oddspedia.com. So if there are only 2 goals, we win our bet here. Let's see if Arteta's men can bounce back. The last game of the weekend is Leicester City Brighton. You mentioned it before, the great celebration of Jamie Vardy. What a goal he scored to win against Sheffield United, and they are still 4th, so in Champions League positions. It was very important, I would say, for the Foxes after 2 straight defeats. And Brighton, Well, they are 10 points, always looking down, probably is way better, not that the other 4 teams that are really fighting against relegation. Well, they were having a good streak, 3 games without any defeat until they lost against Southampton, but they were pretty competitive. And we've seen, Tom, how Leicester struggles at home, so maybe Brighton has something to say here.
Yeah, I think it's a hard one to call, this one. I mean, as you say, Leicester's home form has been disappointing, and nothing summed that up more than that defeat against Fulham in their most recent home fixture, which I think everyone saw Leicester winning without too many problems. And that's been a recurring theme for them in home games this season. Brighton always cause teams problems. They've got attacking potential all over the pitch. They're always set out in a very attacking way. So I can see this being quite an open game. One stat that caught my eye concerns penalties. Leicester have scored more penalties this season than any other team, 7. And Brighton have conceded more penalties this season than any other team, 5. And we know how dangerous Jamie Vardy is when he gets into the box and gets his body between the defender and the ball. And there are a few slightly rash tacklers in that Brighton team. So maybe a cheeky bet on Leicester scoring a penalty, which you can get odds of 5.5 on Oddspedia.
We have also that market to score from the penalty spot on Oddspedia.com. So let's trust this tip, because Leicester, they've only beaten at home Burnley and Wolverhampton, so they really struggle at home. So then we have everything, Tom. All 10 games are analyzed. The only thing missing is your ACCA for this weekend.
So my ACCA selection for this week is Newcastle, Tottenham, Southampton and Liverpool.
All right, and I will tell you the odds. This pays 7.88 if you back Newcastle, Tottenham, Southampton and Liverpool to win. Then thank you very much, Tom, and we have midweek games next week, so more Premier League for us. Thank you.
Sounds good. See you then.
We have now everything that we were looking for. Tom is backing Man City at Old Trafford, but I want to know also your opinion. So let me know what you think about this Manchester Derby or whichever game you want in the comment section. Leave a comment and you will have the chance to win a £10 free bet with Novibet. Just comment anything and you will participate in the draw. And do not forget to click on the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to our channel and click on the bell to get notifications whenever we publish new content. And also remember, you can listen to all our videos in our podcast. Next week we have more odds on Premier League.